Getting in the music industry is not a picnic. It's not going to be a picnic.
And I get this call from Aretha.
She was in a bit of a slump at that point.
She was in a bit of a slump.
Behind every great musical diva, there's typically a myriad of tragedies. And the legendary Aretha Franklin is no exception. The Queen of Soul was forced to deal with everything from parental abandonment, death, and pregnancy before she'd even entered her teenage years. And the iconic singer, famous for her 1960s anthem, Respect, didn't have things much easier when she reached adulthood either. The multiple chart topper, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, and 18-time Grammy Award winner tried her best to keep her turbulent private life out of the public gaze right up until her death from pancreatic cancer in 2018.
Breaking news, it is sad news for millions of music fans. The publicist for Aretha Franklin telling the Associated Press the 76-year-old Queen of Soul has died.
Aretha Franklin's early life was far from idyllic. She came from a broken home. Her father, Clarence, might have been a charismatic preacher with a following, but behind the scenes, he was living a life that was anything but holy. Despite his role as a Baptist minister, he was known for throwing wild parties with plenty of alcohol and marijuana right at his church. According to reports from the Daily Mail, his behavior crossed more serious lines, too. He even had a child with a teenage member of his congregation. This scandalous lifestyle was too much for Aretha's mom, Barbara, who ended up leaving the family when Aretha was only 6 years old. With their mom gone, Aretha and her siblings were pretty much left in the care of their dad. Clarence, known for his powerful voice and charming presence, often had different girlfriends and casual flings around, who then ended up playing a role in raising the kids. This turbulent family dynamic meant that Aretha's childhood was filled with a rotating cast of caretakers alongside the constant presence of her larger-than-life father, who was dubbed the man with the million-dollar voice. Aretha also lost her mom at the age of 9. Despite what some stories might suggest, Aretha Franklin didn't completely lose touch with her mom after she left the family. Her mother, also a talented gospel singer, moved to Buffalo, but Aretha and her siblings, brothers Cecil and sisters Carolyn and Irma, would still catch up with her during the summers. They'd travel to Buffalo to hang out, and sometimes their mom would come visit them back in Detroit. This setup also allowed them to spend time with their half-brother Vaughn, who lived with their mom in Buffalo. Unfortunately, these family reunions were cut short. In 1952, their mom, Barbara, died unexpectedly from a heart attack at the young age of 34, right before Aretha was about to turn 10. Losing her mom so suddenly was a huge blow to young Aretha. To cope with her deep loss, she found solace in music, becoming a soloist at the New Bethel Baptist Church where her father preached. Aretha was also a teenage mom. With such a libidinous father figure, it was perhaps little surprise that Aretha Franklin became active from a worryingly young age. In fact, while appearing on TV documentary Legends, the star appeared to hint that she'd been intimate with another soul legend, Sam Cooke, when she was 12 and he was a much older 23. And 2 months before she entered her teens, she gave birth to the first of her 4 children. Yes, in January of 1955, Franklin welcomed son Clarence into the world, and it didn't help that there were disturbing rumors that he'd been fathered by Franklin's very own pop. The first receipt to this is the name of her son. Aretha first became pregnant at the age of 12 and gave birth to her first child named Clarence Franklin after her father, C.L. Franklin, allegedly in 1955. In 1957, when she was 14, Aretha had a second child named Edward after his father, Edward Jordan. Her third child, Ted White Jr., was born in 1964, and he was also named after his dad. Aretha's youngest son, Keekoff Cunningham, was born in 1970 and is the child of her road manager, Ken Cunningham. Again, he was also named after his dad and mom. In short, all her children were named after their fathers, which would then suggest that her own father fathered her first son when she was 12. In fact, some people swear that there was a time when Aretha said that all her children were named after their fathers, and maybe she meant that literally. but the star never answered this rather unsettling game of who's the daddy. However, in his biography, Respect, the Life of Aretha Franklin, David Ritz alleges that a school friend, Donald Burke, was the mystery man. Aretha also regularly encountered racial segregation. Dropping out of school for a second time turned out to be a turning point for her. It pushed her to fully commit to pursuing her dreams in the music industry. With her paternal grandmother, affectionately known as Big Mama, stepping in to take care of her children, Aretha hit the road to tour with her father's traveling gospel show, known as the Gospel Caravan. However, touring across the country, especially through the Deep South during those times, was far from easy. Aretha and her fellow performers regularly faced the harsh realities of racial segregation. During interviews, including one with NPR, she recounted the discriminatory practices they endured. Many restaurants wouldn't serve them, and numerous gas stations denied them use of their facilities. Aretha noted that only Gulf gas stations reliably provided services to them, a small respite in the pervasive climate of exclusion and prejudice they faced. These experiences on the road deeply affected Aretha, shaping her resolve and her music. She would later become an influential figure in the civil rights movement, with her powerful rendition of Otis Redding's Respect emerging as an anthem for the cause. In a 2016 interview with Elle, Aretha reflected on a pivotal moment in her career when she made a profound decision regarding her performances. She signed a contract vowing that she would never perform for a racially segregated audience. This commitment was a bold stand, embodying her dedication to fighting against racial injustices and using her influence to advocate for equality and respect. Also, Aretha Franklin married an abusive pimp. According to Daily Mail, Aretha Franklin's early career was reportedly bankrolled by Ted White, the man she walked down the aisle with at the age of 19 in 1961. But his money came from nefarious means. White was a notorious criminal on the streets of Detroit, with pimping, in particular, his forte. According to a 1968 profile in Time, he was also a domestic abuser who publicly roughed his wife up while the pair were staying at the Regency Hyatt House Hotel in Atlanta. Franklin herself never commented on the incident, but mentor Mahalia Jackson heartbreakingly told the same magazine, "I don't think she's happy. Somebody else is making her sing the blues." Her producer Otis Taylor, meanwhile, is quoted by author David Ritz in Respect, the Life of Aretha Franklin, as saying that White didn't hesitate slapping Franklin around and didn't care who saw him do it. Franklin never publicly commented on these allegations, but fans believe she strongly hinted at them in her 1967 song, "I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You," with the lyrics saying, "I don't know why I let you do these things to me. My friends keep telling me that you ain't no good, but oh, they don't know that I'd leave you if I could." The star eventually did leave White, also the father of her third son, Teddy, divorcing him in 1969. By the time Aretha Franklin headed for the divorce courts, she had also developed a serious drinking problem. The soul singer had turned to alcohol as a means of coping with her abusive marriage, but it soon began impacting her glittering career. As the Daily Mail details, the singer once broke her arm after drunkenly falling off stage mid-gig while performing, although Franklin later claimed that the venue's blinding bright lights had been to blame for her costly stumble. The star also repeatedly disappointed fans by canceling shows at the last minute and not showing up for studio recording dates, once even suffering the ignominy of an arrest for disorderly behavior. "She was drinking so much we thought she was on the verge of a breakdown," Sister Carolyn said in David Ritz's biography, Respect, the Life of Aretha Franklin, about the crooner's time with Ted White. Thankfully, as the dawn of a new decade emerged, Franklin was able to keep the drinking to a minimum. However, Aretha Franklin may have managed to get her drinking under control after leaving her abusive husband behind, but she still continued to struggle with her mental health. As Sister Carolyn revealed in David Ritz's biography, Respect, the Life of Aretha Franklin, the star was plagued by self-doubt and the stresses of working in the music industry. According to Carolyn, Franklin was afraid she wasn't good enough as a singer, pretty enough as a woman, or devoted enough as a mother. I don't know what to call it, but deep, deep insecurity. And Carolyn wasn't the only sibling to be concerned about Aretha's state of mind. She was also hospitalized for nervous exhaustion in an isolated Connecticut facility by her brother Cecil. This drastic move initially appeared to do the trick as the singer returned to work in familiar diva mode. However, it was only ever a temporary fix, and the crooner would seek similar help time and time again. Also, Aretha Franklin became something of a fantasist. Aretha certainly wasn't afraid to embellish the truth a little. In fact, she often completely fabricated stories about her private life in a bid to dismiss press reports about her mental instability. Aretha gets up every day and starts creating her own reality. Her friend Ruth Bowen is quoted by David Ritz in his biography, Respect, The Life of Aretha Franklin. Franklin was certainly committed to whichever idea popped into her head. One particular man was no doubt left stunned when he heard that he was due to walk down the aisle with the Queen of Soul, a downright lie that came straight from the horse's mouth. As Bowen added, at some point she started seeing her love life like a soap opera. She began writing a soap opera script, just making up stuff, fantasizing about men and relationships that never existed. That became a new pattern for her, making up stories about these beautiful love affairs that happened only in her mind. Now, the year 1984 proved to be something of an annus horribilis for the Queen of Soul. Not only did Aretha Franklin divorce her second husband, actor Glyn Turman, after 6 years of marriage, but she also lost the man she perhaps loved more dearly than any other, her father, Clarence. As per the Washington Post, the New Bethel Baptist Church preacher was shot twice at close range during a botched robbery of his Detroit house 5 years previously and subsequently fell into a coma from which he never came out of. Clarence spent the first 6 months after the incident in the hospital before being allowed to receive round-the-clock care at home. Aretha would later put her career on hold to help look after her father in 1982. However, she would often argue with her siblings and other family members about how best to do so. In David Ritz's memoir, Respect, The Life of Aretha Franklin, booking agent Ruth Bowen argues, falling outs are her specialty. This became a reality when Aretha lost 2 of her siblings within a year of each other. Aretha Franklin's relationships with her siblings were often fraught. Per Daily Mail, the star had a jealous streak which some say manifested itself by holding back the careers of her sisters Irma and Carolyn, 2 talented singers in their own right, and brother Cecil, who also became the singer's manager following her divorce from first husband Ted White, would regularly be on the receiving end of her sharp tongue. In David Ritz's biography, Respect, The Life of Aretha Franklin, he's quoted as saying, "She takes her suffering and turns it into anger. It's all about diva drama. It's hard for her to deal with extreme sadness and loss." Sadly, the soul legend would lose all 3 siblings by the turn of the century, and all to different forms of the Big C. Carolyn died of breast cancer in April 1988, while Cecil passed away from the lung form at Christmas 1989. The eldest Franklin sibling, Irma, succumbed to throat cancer in September 2002, the same year that their half-brother Vaughn also lost his life. Having lost 3 siblings and a half-brother to cancer, Aretha Franklin was then reportedly diagnosed with the pancreatic form of the disease in 2010. However, as always, the vocalist remained tight-lipped. In an interview with Wendy Williams a year later, Franklin refused to comment on the surgery she'd undergone, simply telling the host, "I've left that behind. I'm feeling wonderful. I'm feeling great." However, the musical icon would continue to cancel shows throughout the decade to an undisclosed medical condition. The singer officially retired from the stage in 2017, although she promised to continue recording albums, telling radio station WDIV, "I feel very, very enriched and satisfied with respect to where my career came from and where it is now." Sadly, Franklin never got the chance to release another studio effort, as in August 2018, she died from pancreatic cancer at her Detroit home. In his glowing tribute, Barack Obama tweeted that the singer had helped define the American experience. Despite all her challenges, these experiences shaped Aretha Franklin into a formidable diva, and she emerged as one of the legendary figures of her era. That's it for today. Until next time, bye.